Welcome back to Unmuted Nation, and it's time for the cabinet today. BossFM Talk's own Tiff Lanelle is joining me. Hey Tiff.
Hey.
So we're talking about, and I'm great. I'm glad that we were able to finally move the cabinet segment, give the viewers both the audio podcast and video version now. Obviously, the cabinet happens on Unmuted Nation from time to time. When things get intense, I bring multiple people in, and when I say I'm convening the cabinet, it's going to be a moment.
It's a serious thing.
It's going to be a moment. It's a serious thing, and I think to get started, where I want to go, and probably I'll start with you and some of your thoughts on states starting to reopen, cities starting to reopen. There's tons of data. A lot of these states, the states at the forefront of doing this, are not doing any testing at all. They're just not doing any testing. And what the data that we do know is that Black and brown people, and I advocate for the Black all the time, brown as well. We have data that shows that both Black and brown people are being affected by this disease disproportionately, dying. Right. Disproportionately. And it's a major issue that it seems like nobody cares about. You're actually in one of those states on the ground. Talk to me about what it's like to be there experiencing that.
It's crazy. So I have been doing, my very best to not be out too much. I started getting text messages and emails of "we're open now" and signs in front of companies. We're open. You can come in. Restaurants as well. I got a text from one of my beauty places that I go to for my esthetician, and they were like, "Oh, we're open now." And then within maybe 5 minutes, I got another text from them saying our site may be slow. It's crashing from the traffic. My massage place called me and was like, "Hey, we're open." And it's just like, I'm not ready. It's scary when I go to get groceries. I do curbside pickup. I'm not even getting out of my car at this point to do that. They bring everything to the car. But it's so many people out. The amount of people that are out now that Georgia has started to reopen is really scary. And they are just out. Some have masks, some don't. Now, I can't blame everyone that doesn't have on a mask because some don't have access to it. And I acknowledge that. Right. But it's scary. It's dangerous because there's nothing to show that this virus is actually slowing down. And the numbers that we have been seeing where it is lessening is not because the virus is stopping. It's because we had started to make changes and closing things down and doing quarantine and social distancing. That's why the numbers were slowing down. So I'm really scared about what's going to happen when the real numbers come out as these states start to reopen.
I think I'm nervous about it as well. I think notoriously, and a lot of people have asked me, like, "Alex, why is this such a big deal? We got to get back to life." And I'm not somebody that thinks that everything needs to remain closed. I think we know that states need to open. People have to live. And a lot of the talking points from one side of this argument were we can't let the results of the virus or the effects of the virus be more dangerous than the virus itself. And I'm like, okay, I hear that. We can at least be safe. And so while we didn't know any information, and we still don't know a lot of information about the virus, we know that it's continuing to mutate, and we know that it's transforming. We know that the first cure that we get may not even be sufficient. It may not be enough for what we need. But what we do know is that we need adequate testing to at least test to see who A, has it, and B, who's immune from it, or even not. Immunity is not even a thing. Who has antibodies that will kind of prevent them from contracting it on first contact? Because that's really what it's gonna. If you're around any virus long enough, whether you got antibodies or not, it's gonna get you. So I think there's so much confusion, and I think that in our communities as well, people take. And people don't like when I say this, but I say it often. I think people take their cues unintentionally from leadership. and they don't know it. People that don't like leaders, they don't vote for leaders. If you think that you don't like Donald Trump and you're not taking a cue from him, you're confused. You're confused. And it's I was watching something this morning, and it was a chronicalization of 3 years of Donald Trump and his attack on the media, and correlating how intense people's response and belief in that stuff has,
right.
and they've taken it and attached it to themselves. So let me be the first one to say to you that news is not something that you can pick and choose. You don't get to say something is fake news because you don't agree with it. No, right. You can say, I want more research on that fact, or what's the source of that fact. And I know a lot of people, like, you glanced over these things in education when you were in school, or you don't remember them, but it's time to brush up on them because you're being played for like a complete dunce. And right. A lot of times people were like, he's the president, he wouldn't lie. That's all he does. And I think in January, we had 17,000 lies.
Right.
By January 2020. That's how many he had told in a 3-year period.
Yeah, we've lost count at this point. And really, let's be clear about the vaccine and how this works, because I really think some people still don't know how vaccines, really work. In order to get a vaccine, you have to basically deconstruct the virus itself and then try and figure out, once again, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, lock and key. You've got to figure out how this component fits this component. When the virus started mutating, which it's still doing, the keys that we are trying to associate with this particular lock may not be the same keys. Like, the virus that we had in January is not the same virus necessarily today. The virus that so-and-so got in January may not be the version that you get in June or whatever. So that is why it's so dangerous. And that is why scientists and doctors are saying, if you get it again, it could be worse because it may be a different strain, or it may be a stronger strain than what you got before because it has mutated. So the vaccines that they are working on now are for the initial versions of this virus. So whatever vaccine we get in 2021 that they're starting to test now are for those first versions of whatever the virus are, not maybe some of the mutations that have occurred, which is why the flu vaccine every year is only somewhat effective. Right. You're getting a flu vaccine based off of the strain from the previous year. So that is,
and there's a reason that they need to create a new one every year.
Every year.
We already know that the coronavirus itself, that's a type of virus that's not what we have right now. What we have right now is COVID-19.
Right.
And it's COVID-19 because it appeared in 19. That's really why it's labeled that. So what we have, literally COVID-20, we're going to be trying to treat in 21. And we know that this virus is so new and it manipulates so fast. What do you think about the rampant, because we're going to talk about how it's affecting Black people specifically. And, but what do you think about the rampant spreading of fake news? And I say fake news, like, I'm talking to Black people. So when you're sharing memes or something, and I explain this to my family, not to put them on blast, but I do that on every show I've ever been on. Just because something is immaculately produced does not mean it's true.
Right.
People are carrying iPhones around with them. I can give you a pristine production. You give me 30 minutes. I can make it happen. So you're sharing this information. People share without really the people, and going back to that fake news thing, people share what they agree with.
Right. Or what?
So and people are going to hear that. Right. They're going to hear that. They're going to think, they're like, well, no, no, you only share what you agree with. When you agree with something and it validates some asinine belief that you have or some conspiracy, see, I told y'all. And it's like, what? No, it doesn't even make any sense. It makes no sense at all.
Some post things, and then there's a talk piece that goes along with it on why you disagree. That's all fine and good, but did you share something that backs up even your disagreement on a thing? Like, you're talking about we weren't wearing masks in January. How's that supposed to help now? Okay, where's your proof? Where's the receipts, so to speak? Everyone loves receipts. Whatever you are posting should have receipts. Whatever you are reading should have receipts. Whatever you are saying should have receipts. And I'm just not seeing enough receipts right now that tells
You're
me
not seeing them because they
out
don't.
in these streets.
You're not seeing the receipts because they don't exist.
They don't.
And I think that a lot of times, and there's a number of scenarios, like people are like, and I heard this argument. I don't know if you saw this, but there was this guy. He went totally viral. He's the owner of the website Barstool Sports, and on that he went and he said something. And you know, I'm most of my beliefs are partisan, and I said this on the show yesterday. While my views when it comes to news are very partisan, I've developed into something that I think my politics are starting to lean because of my experience as a Black man. And so while I can be as partisan on my opinion and my viewpoints and what I share, because this is my profession, my actual politics, things that affect me, start to lean because I'm a Black man. So what he was saying was he runs a website that I think he has about 66 million views a month or clicks a month. And his point was he would rather contract the coronavirus and die than restart his business. And I heard that viewpoint. I didn't, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I know I could see you on a monitor making, but I think that his experience is true. I believe that he has a true experience. On the flip side of that, what is also true is that is a privileged, monolithic, white experience. His experience is true. His experience is white. Because on the same time, at the same time, there are Black people that want to go back to work and people of color that want to go back to work. But they would rather live their lives than dying working for your white ass. And I have to say it that way to get the point across, to show that this is not a cultural war. Some other platforms, Meghan McCain is saying that Barack Obama ushered in a culture war, and Trump's people are just perpetuating that. And Meghan, I know that you can't see this, but the culture war has been here. It's been here, and you're just at a place that it's bubbling up because now someone has sparked and enabled these races that have always been here. Like, it didn't go away with the stroke of a pen. And I hear white people all the time, Black people that believe white supremacy. That's a whole nother topic. But they are regurgitating, racism ended with the emancipation.
But
your thoughts on that?
Honest, the reason, these are my 2 cents. These are not the views of Unmuted Nation. These are not the views of BossFM. These are my Tiffany Lanelle's views. Let's be very clear. Black people have known struggle. They have known starting from the ground up. They have known digging in the dirt to create something from anew since the dawning of time. We've been doing it. It's literally in our blood. White people don't necessarily know that struggle, not to the degree that Black people do. So we know that if
they would argue with that and say, well, I didn't grow up privileged. I didn't grow up poor, but you did.
And let's be clear.
I didn't grow up privileged, but your skin is in it. It is what enables privilege.
Now, in this kind of situation, everyone has to acknowledge some level of privilege in this situation. One person is more fortunate than another. I've got shelter, I've got lights, I've got food, I've got friends, I've got family. I'm good, and I'm not, but in that sense, I am privileged in that sense. But overall, my Black female skin and body has to work 3 times as hard, at least, to get to the same tables or create the same spaces that my white female counterpart or white male not counterpart can just easily walk into. And that it just is what it is. So as a business owner, I can say, you know what, if my business suffers, I can start over because I know how to. I've had to do it. It'll be fine. So as a white person, that may be a fear. I can't start this over because I've already built it and I've already used this endowment. I already used this money over here, and I can't start from scratch because I've already worked to build this. Our grandmothers have been building things out of kitchens for generations. So there's a cultural difference there in the fight that we just have running through our veins that doesn't necessarily match up to what's running through other veins.
Speak to the anxiety of someone that is in a city or a state, and they've been called back to work, and they still don't feel safe. Speak to that, and we'll talk about it because there are provisions that will help in that situation.
Right.
But what is one to do?
So one thing that happened here in Atlanta is a lot of our bus routes started getting stopped and suspended right when Kemp decided unilaterally that he was going to reopen Georgia. We have a lot of essential workers, especially in the inner city, who are trying to get to work, trying to get to these jobs, to pay bills, trying to do what they need to do. And it's hard. There's one thing that I want to say to the consumer is extend grace, extend compassion for those who are at work, for those who are really getting out into the trenches to get what we need and to get things done. For those who are struggling, lean on a neighbor, lean on a friend, lean on family, lean on a support group. And if you don't have one, now is the perfect time to foster one. When everyone is really in the same boat. We really are all trying to figure this thing out together. Create and find your support system and lean upon it. Now is not the time to say, oh, I got it, I can do it. I got this by myself. I've been by myself before. I can do bad all by myself and all of the other colloquialisms that we use. Find a support group, find a support system and use it and lean on it. And just now is the time to start to trust folks, use discernment. And maybe not trust Ray Ray, who, ain't been ish since 1992. But find a support.
I think that it's imperative for people to speak up.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing. A lot of people are afraid of that.
Period.
But what a lot of people don't know this. The CARES Act is actually covering people that still don't feel safe. So if you don't feel safe, your job calls you back, you will qualify for unemployment. I know what they're telling you, but you will qualify. You will be covered by the CARES Act. $600 may not be what you're making. Some people on one side of this argument are really upset that the government is even giving you $600 because you're making more than you made. And I offer that there's not a problem with unemployment or with the CARES Act, but there's a problem in the states that people are making because what you're not promoting is a free market, but you are actually enabling and creating poverty by keeping people, and especially for businesses that pay people like this and they can afford to do better.
Right.
I totally understand a small business, especially within our community, that we do what we can so that we can at least get our own. And I get that. There's a different argument. And I think in those of business, a lot of times, what I love about Black business, and I want to add a positive note here, is that what I know about Black business owners, a lot of them, I can't speak for them all, they don't only want you to get their bag with them. They want to teach you to get your bag. They want to enable you to, whether they own a restaurant and you've worked for them for 10 years, they don't want you there forever. They would love for you to be there. But if you want your own, they would love to coach you into that.
They're going to put you to work. They're going to put you to work so that you can learn the ropes, so that you don't go out here embarrassing them.
In so many ways, I think that we can also foster partnerships that will make that thing, that is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, it's an opportunity to be there. I think that it's just, I'm really concerned that people, and I know I got to keep saying this, and for those of us that are aware and paying attention, and the news is on now, but I do tune it out at times. I will totally disconnect because you need to do that, because they're going to say the same things all day, not on this show, so you need to tune in every day. But what you need to understand is that this is not over. Right. If you get that virus, it's still as deadly as it was 3 months ago when everything was closed.
Maybe more.
No, I'm not saying, everything needs to remain closed. But you have to be careful and cognizant of what you're seeing, because the language is going to change. And I saw, even yesterday, the president was talking about how, people's mental health is now suffering. He doesn't give a damn about your mental health.
This country has never cared about mental health.
Anybody but Donald Trump. That's it. That's that. The end.
Right.
So we're going to keep... Tiff is going to stay with us. Oh, go ahead.
if you don't do anything else, contact your providers, contact your electric company, contact your water company, contact your car insurance, contact your car company, contact your mortgage, your rent, your landlord, whatever. Look and see what state you live in. Is it a landlord state or a tenant state? See what rights you have. I sat yesterday or the day before, did all the adulting and contacted some of my companies, and I was like, what discounts do y'all have? What, I'm not going anywhere. My car is sitting in the driveway, in the garage. Like, what? It's literally not being driven. I saved some money, quite a bit of money, because they were able to take my amount of mileage per year down. Simple things like that really add up. Make arrangements, speak up, and don't be afraid to contact these providers and these companies and just say, hey, I need a plan. I need a repayment plan. I need a forbearance. I need a, forgiveness. I need whatever. Learn these key terms when you call these companies and ask for what you need. You'd be amazed how many will actually either give it to you or work with you and work within what you can do.
These aren't normal times, and we're all going through something. We're all going through the same thing. So it's important to make those phone calls. Be vocal. Call your friends, call your family. I was talking to a friend yesterday who just told me he was in a dark place, and he just had to go out in Atlanta, spend some time on the Beltline, just needed to get away. He was thankful for the fact that he had some anxiety meds, but he didn't have anybody to talk to, nobody to talk to. Call people. Call people. And listen, at this point, we've been in this for months. It's okay if you need to go and stand 6 feet away from somebody if you not sure where they've been, and talk to them then. At least you can see them. And I think there's so many things that can be done here. But another thing that is going to affect that Black people need to be paying attention to, just because we are so instrumental in this, is voting.
Yes.
And we already know monumentally, primaries were canceled, primaries occurred, primaries were postponed during this COVID era. New York, where I am, was one place where it was primary was canceled. A lot of people were saying there was no point because there's no point to go and vote for a primary Democratic candidate when there's only one. However, there are other candidates on the ballots for some other. For those of you listening, this is the first time we're adding the video component to this segment specifically. So we're watching the glitches. You're not hearing them, but we can see them. So when it comes to voting, and I want to bring it up because a lot of states are going to start to offer the option to mail in your votes.
Right.
And people are not sure how that works. There are some states that have only had mail-in voting. That's the only way that they do it. And then there's some states that they don't really do it at all. There's not a precedent or a process to get that done. Now, a lot of the data that we have shows that the percentage or the margin of actual fraudulent voting is usually less than 1% nationally, which means that it's not a real thing. But the current president started talking about voter fraud when he ran last time. And if you recall, he talked about how it was going to be rigged, you can't trust the ballots, and then he won. And we didn't hear another word from him. And he really did win. He still could have called it fraud because Hillary Clinton did get 3 million more
over
actual votes than him.
Right.
But the topic of voter fraud is coming back. What are your thoughts? And in places where votes have notoriously been suppressed, again, we talked about you're in Georgia. We know that there is an active campaign to defraud people and suppress them, and their abilities to vote. Do you think that we're going to see widespread voter? Because I think it's important for us to ask each other in the Black community. First of all, we barely got time to go to the polls at all. To go twice.
Right. Which is why, so I live in a Black county, very Black county. And in my county, and I've lived in a Black county for, I guess, the last 3 or 4 years, predominantly Black counties. And in my counties and cities, they extend the voting hours to try and make up for essential workers, people who had worked different shifts or whatever. So they try and curtail any reasons why someone may not make it to the polls. Now, I think that, and in Georgia, our early voting actually just started. I can go down the street and do early voting right now. And apparently—
Is this early primary voting?
Yes.
Okay.
So my sample ballot right now has some judges on there. It has, of course, the presidents. Now, when we look at it, it still has, I think, at least half of the presidential candidates are still on my ballot. So Klobuchar, of course, Biden, Buttigieg, all of them are still on my ballot. I think it's like 10 of them on my ballot right now.
Those delegates obviously are going to go to Joe Biden, but okay.
Right. But they started early voting. It started on, I think, Monday. But a lot of people don't know that they have started. So there's been a lot of mailers going out. There's been a lot of messages on different forums and posts. And I think I have gotten 3 things in the mail about absentee ballots. So different organizations here are really trying to do their part to get the word out and spread the word that, hey, you can go early vote. You can do an absentee ballot. I think it's over 1 million applications for absentee ballots. I think it's 1.4 million or something like that. But my concern is, like you said, those who say, what's the point? Either, my vote isn't going to really count, especially when people get some misinformation about how the Electoral College works. If they hear about the Electoral College and they're like, oh, well, then what am I voting for? It's pointless. It's not really counting for anything. So there's, that point, and then voter suppression is a real thing, because let me be clear, Kemp did not win governorship fair and square. He was over the elections here. Stacey Abrams was literally this close to winning, and had our votes not been suppressed in this state, she absolutely would be governor right now, and we probably wouldn't be doing half the BS that we are. So voter suppression is a real thing. I, again, live in a predominantly Black county, so I was fortunate enough to not have to go through it when I went to vote in the last elections.
But even in what the struggle here is, in predominantly Black rural counties,
yes,
they will still deal with
it. They will still find a way. So what they do in those counties,
within a city where, although they're ensuring there's enough people to ensure that there are enough facilities, but in these rural Black counties,
but in rural areas,
left and right.
They close the polling locations. They combine the polling locations. Some of the things that we saw here were, the machines are here, but the plugs are still at the warehouse. What? Or there's not enough machines to the population of the city. So the lines are extremely long. People are doing this on their lunch break. They got to get back to work. This is another form of voter suppression. If you know that you have a certain population in a particular area and you only have 1 polling location with 2 machines, people cannot stand in line for 4 and 6 hours to try and vote. They don't have time for that.
And some do, and the other side calls that patriotism or patriotic. I call that bullshit. I think if you know that you've got a certain population in an area, you have 1 polling location and 2 voting machines, you haven't done your due diligence, and the people in charge need to be prosecuted for voter suppression. You absolutely need to be prosecuted. There's a lot of talk like Donald Trump is back at his antics again. Donald Trump is back at the same bullshit that he was at. And it just baffles me how this continues. What frustrates me is that we're going to see this now, and I think he's tweeting today. I think we have the tweet, and he's basically saying, "Look at this. Breaking: Michigan sends absentee ballots to 7.7 million people ahead of primaries and the general election. This was done illegally and without authorization by a rogue Secretary of State. I will ask to hold up funding to Michigan if they want to go down this voter fraud path." Tiff, first and foremost, what I want to say about this tweet alone is, if Barack, at times I'll call him Rock, if Rock had, first of all, a president getting involved in the elections at this magnitude,
Right.
If he's addressed by it, what he's going to say is, well, I'm speaking for my people because they don't have a voice. I'm speaking out against the establishment. You didn't do anything with the establishment. You let the establishment actually reign. You
Right.
brought the establishment, your establishments in. You still have over 100 seats in your, over almost 200 seats in your government, in your administration that still have not been filled. You've been doing the job for 3 years. And now
How? How?
I don't know. And this is not the only state that he did this with. He then says the state of Nevada thinks that they can send out like, Trump, who are you?
Right.
That they can send out illegal vote by mail ballots, creating a great voter fraud scenario for the state and the United States. They can't. If they do, I think I can hold up funds to the state. Sorry, but you must not cheat in elections. Why are you tweeting the secretary, the secretary of the Treasury? Why are you tweeting the U.S. Treasury? Like, all of this bullshit and false outrage that you're putting out here for the people, like, another distraction from the fact that 90,000 people have died from COVID-19.
Right.
90,000 people.
Let's talk about that. Tweet about that and your hydroxychloroquine that you are allegedly taking. Can we talk about that? Like, I really want to.
Let's put voter suppression to the side and talk about hydroxychloroquine.
Before we do that, I would just like to reiterate Obama's very poignant tweet that went viral. Vote. No matter what anyone else says, no matter what these people do, no matter what, nothing.
I wish I could show that tweet right now.
Vote. Nothing.
That's it. That's the tweet.
That's it. Don't, like, there is nothing that should prevent you from voting, period. No matter
if you had 30 seconds to talk to somebody that's on the fence of voting, what would you say?
Why would you not allow your voice to be heard? We cannot make the changes that we need to make in this country without doing at least the simple steps and allowing our voices to be heard. Our ancestors died, and not just Black ancestors. Some of you white people were not allowed to vote back in the day because you didn't own property. So this is not just a Black, brown, and white thing. We fought, our people, my people fought for the right to vote. And it is not a privilege. It is a right that some people, especially those incarcerated, don't get to use every day.
It hasn't been 50 years.
Hasn't. Let's be clear. It
hasn't been 50 years that Black people have been voting. That's
right.
Why you need to vote. It hasn't been 50 years that you've had the ability. You talk about, oh, everything's equal now. It doesn't feel equal. This is your time to get out there. I have other days that I'm going to come here and encourage you and teach you. I'm going to walk you through. I told you, Tiff, when I start doing this show, I'm just going all off script, things that I've never done before. I'm going to teach you how to run for mayor. I'm going to teach you how to run for Congress. They might come after me. They might kill me. Who really knows? But I'm going to teach you these things because it's imperative for you to know that you need to be doing these things. You can make that difference. You are the only one. Hydroxychloroquine. Let's go there really quickly. So hydroxychloroquine is a drug that's on the market. It's been used for malaria. It's used for other heart disease. Respiratory diseases, inflammatory diseases. It's been used on a widespread basis for these diseases in the past. Not a secret, not a problem, not a thing. A lot of the Trump supporters right now are saying, well, I've been taking it 20 years, not for COVID-19. I don't need to. I'm going to say it this way. You would not trust Donald Trump with medical advice when he was just a reality star, when he had The Apprentice and was talking about you're fired. You would not trust Donald Trump with medical advice when you found out that he cheated on all his wives and he probably has multiple STDs still and walking around with them. You would not naturally trust Donald Trump. You just wouldn't. So what reason would you take medical advice from somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about? Like that has no credentials, that eats McDonald's 3 times a day, right? And doesn't drink water. Like in what world do you want healthcare advice from somebody that has never looked healthy?
Again, especially when some of y'all don't trust your medically licensed professional doctors. Why are you listening to this asshat in the 1600 Pennsylvania? Let's go through.
I was trying to get through this without lodging insults at him, but I really don't have anything.
I don't have any other way to acknowledge him.
I will say this though, and we're not going to roll the tape because on my airwaves, I like to play as least. Like I have to only play it if it's totally unbelievable, but most of the bullshit you can believe. But literally less than a month ago, his own administration was telling you, do not take this. It is not safe.
Let's go through some of the side effects when you're done.
Well, also less than a month ago, he told you to inject bleach into bleach to the point that Clorox and Lysol had to come out and tell you people not to inject bleach into your body. Right. Don't put it in your mouth. Don't drink it. Don't inject it into your asshole. Do not put bleach into your body. Lysol had to come out. Like what world do we live in? I understand with Generation Z. I totally understand this generation that was eating Tide Pods. Okay. I understand that maybe they would have to question that. But for you people that have been here on the earth for extended periods of time, for you to be all of the health departments, their numbers had skyrocketed over 1,000% because people wanted to know. Meghan the McCain said on The View yesterday, she said, I'm a very sane person and I'm very logical. But when he said he was taking it, if I was having a moment, she said, because I have so much anxiety, I want to go outside, I would consider it. And it's like,
if this is what we're in life,
is up for debate as well.
Well,
the fact of the matter is, like you said, Tiff, I think your point was the best. Sometimes your doctor may prescribe you something and you're looking at them like, I don't know about that.
Right.
I looked at these side effects. I don't know if I want this in my body. The side effects of hydroxychloroquine, most people can't even get it out. Hydroxychloroquine. Psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
That's a literal side effect. I guess based on his tweets, he's already there. Just tapping right into it.
I mean,
psychosis, paranoia, death.
Symptoms of overdose, mood changes, no pulse or blood pressure.
Death.
That's death. You're dead. I don't understand. First of all, no doctor in his right mind with all of the underlying conditions that Trump has would ever prescribe hydroxychloroquine unless they're just trying to take one for the team. And that's
and it could be. It could be. On the flip side, you have to understand that a doctor would also not prescribe this to a person. He's a notorious liar. But it's not going to prescribe it to a person that's 73 years old.
Correct.
Has heart disease.
Correct.
And in the words of our Speaker of the House, is morbidly obese.
Listen, Pelosi has just laid it all out there.
Clinically and morbidly.
Yes.
Obese. So if you're taking this, you're taking it on your own volition, but it's incredibly irresponsible to advise the American people that they should take it. What's the harm?
And let me be clear, doctors are still trying to figure out what to prescribe for COVID-19. I had a friend who had the virus and was prescribed stupid stuff, basically tic-tacs in terms of medicine. When we finally, I'm gonna be honest, I ignored what the doctor said and I started giving her medicine that I knew worked because they're basically just treating the symptoms. They don't have medicine to cure or treat COVID-19. So they're trying to treat the symptoms the best they can. So I switched her medicine. When I switched her medicine and it started working and she told her doctor said, okay, noted, I'll start trying to prescribe that. They don't know. They're trying to figure this thing out because once again,
these children, there was a child that contracted COVID-19 and that new mysterious disease that's hitting children.
Right.
His fever was so high, even with ice laying on him, he couldn't even feel the ice. He was so high, he couldn't even feel the ice. So there's not only not a cure. Doctors that have, let us be clear on this. Doctors that have prescribed hydroxychloroquine have prescribed it to people that have truly contracted it, and it's an option that they are trying.
Right. But that's
not
taking
the
whole
as a prophylaxis, as a preventative. Like, first of all, for you to take something preventive at 73, doctors are very on the fence of giving you a prophylaxis at all, something to prevent you from getting something when anything could kill you after 70.
They're very careful, and so
I'm being careful now because I'm speculating that I question the reason that you're still here.
You know what?
Another whatever.
It's allow the doctors to do their work. I mean, one's entire medical profile has to be considered. You have to know what you're allergic to, what you're not allergic to, what other medications you're on that might cause some interactions and some other side effects. There's a lot to consider. Please stop listening to this asshat that is at the White House right now. He doesn't know your medical history. He doesn't know your family medical history. He doesn't know what else you're taking. He doesn't know what doctor you're going to, your age, your weight, your height. He doesn't know any of that. So please stop taking medical advice from him.
On that note, we will end this cabinet segment on the fact, that one fact. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Trump doesn't know. The end. We are done with it. In the words of Auntie Maxine, I said what I had to say. I'm done with it. That's it. He doesn't know. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know. No. Tiff, thanks for coming through the cabinet, guys. Tiff's show is coming to BossFM Talk very soon. So if you love seeing her on the cabinet, she's one of the many people that come through and really just shine here at the cabinet. Because, we try to do how we do it. We're doing the best that we can do. And that's all we can do right now. We're trying to just figure it out. And so while we're doing that, you do you. Stay with us. More Unmuted Nation after this break.
Unmuted Nation, weekdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on BossFM Talk.